What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Sports 360. I'm Jeff Fennell, and I'm here with my man, Rob Duran of Rob Duran Sports. Rob, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Jeff?
Rob, I'm back in the saddle with you, man. So you know I'm doing all right. This is the place to be. Sitting up here, man, and just getting a chance to kick around the different issues that are out there in sports. We both took in the AllStar game from afar. Don't want anybody to think we had tickets to the NBA All-Star game this past weekend. But there was some good and some not so good stuff there. But I really did enjoy that. And I tell you, Rob, I am looking forward to, the second half of the NBA season. How about you?
Yeah, man. Listen, the AllStar Weekend was, like you said, up and down, good and bad. But the second half of the NBA season is sure to be some must watch TV.
Yeah. I mean, I think all basketball fans, all NBA basketball fans are looking forward to, Ben Simmons making his debut with the Brooklyn Nets and James Harden making his debut with the Sixers. And it seems like that may happen this week.
Yeah,
There's talk certainly for Harden to, play by the end of this week when play resumes. And I think Ben, talking about him ramping up physically and getting ready to come back. Kevin Durant is still out, but it would be interesting to see Ben Simmons in a Nets uniform.
yeah, it'll be. We'll see how he fits. We had our conversation last week, a couple of weeks ago, about if this trade was made, how they would fit on the teams and stuff like that. So it'll be very interesting to see how these teams fare. We'll see if there are any changes. I know there were some talks about the New York City mayor making some changes to the vaccine mandate, and obviously that affects Kyrie Irving's ability to play at home. So we'll see how that, you know, kind of comes together down the road as well. So, like I said, man, must watch TV for the NBA moving forward.
Yeah, I saw that too, man, where um, Mayor Adams, Mr.
Yes.
Swag, he goes around talking about a mayor has to have swagger. Have you seen that? Did you see that press conference?
I did, yeah.
That thing was hilarious, man.
Man.
You gotta have swagger. So Mr. Swagger, yeah, I saw that where he said that they were pulling back in New York on the mandates. And he said he can't wait till that happens, but he's following the experts. But you're right. That could mean Kyrie Irving now being able to play home games. But they need KD back, bro.
Yeah,
That
big
team
time.
needs KD back.
Yeah, he's their number one. He's the leader of that team. He's the number one player, arguably the best player in the world when healthy. So if the Nets are going to make any moves this year, championship wise, because that should be the goal with that kind of squad, KD needs to be back and healthy.
Sure does. He sure does. Now, there was some other news though coming out of the All-Star game because right before the All-Star game, Chris Paul hurt his hand, and then it was announced that he might be out 6 to 8. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks now with that hand injury, and Phoenix has the best record in the NBA right now, the Phoenix Suns. But without Chris Paul, look, they still have a lot of talent, and they still will win their share of games, but they are going to miss Chris Paul.
Yeah, the dude is on the court, off the court, a bona fide leader, and he is the guy on that team. I know they have Devin Booker, they have Bridges, who's doing his thing this year. He's playing great basketball, and like you said, a couple other pieces as well. But Chris Paul is the glue of that squad, and we saw that last year, and we've continued to see that this year. He's having a great season again. So we're going to see how they fill that void. Obviously, they can't replace him per se, but they're going to have to try to figure it out over the next, what you hope is the 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, and look, I just hope he's back and he's healthy for the playoffs. I hope Kevin Durant is back and healthy for the playoffs. But you're right. In the meantime, they're gonna have to try to figure it out in Phoenix with Chris Paul missing. Now, one of the things, getting back to the All Star game, Rob, that I did not particularly like, and that was with Chris Paul, was that it was announced that he had this injury and that he was going to miss some time, but he still played in the All-Star game. I mean, he didn't play long. He wanted to play long enough to get one assist. And, for me, I'm thinking, yo, man, you, you got a busted hand
Yeah.
and you can't play for your team in the regular season. And you're going to go out there and play in the exhibition. And perhaps, look, every time you get on the court, you can get injured, right? So you could do more damage to that hand. I, I, I I just I didn't like that part. I really didn't, and I didn't. I thought he should have just sat out the game.
Yeah, I agree. Anything could have happened, like a bad pass, him bumping into someone trying to get a ball. That could have just, 6 to 8 weeks easily turns into the rest of the season, you know, and then there go the
Yeah,
playoffs. So, yeah, he should have just, fine, stay there for the introductions, do all that stuff, but just sit out. That's it. Call it a day.
yeah,
You're there, share with the teammates, sit on the bench, and just chill, man. But
yeah,
to be out there on the court, you're risking it.
yeah, yeah. Now, as far as the NBA All Star festivities, first of all, I will say this: basketball is my favorite sport. Right? I work in baseball. I've been working in baseball for over 20 years. And, Rob, sometimes I talk to people and they say, "Well, you work in baseball and basketball is your favorite sport." I'm like, "Do you think the guy who works at Dunkin' Donuts that his favorite dessert is donuts? Probably not." You know what I'm saying? Like, right? So yeah, I work in baseball, but that doesn't mean that's my favorite sport. You know what I mean? Um, but basketball is my favorite sport, man. And I gotta tell you, man, seeing all those great players at the All-Star game, when they had this, the 75 were there and just
Yeah.
even the current All-Stars and even the future stars. Rob, I'm telling you, man, it's something about seeing all of these. I mean, seeing, you know, Michael and Magic and and Kareem and all those guys, man. Um, it was really, really special, man. Whenever you see NBA players getting together, it's something else, man. These are some tremendous, tremendous players, man.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. You see, with the NBA, it just feels different when their
Yeah.
legends come together. Like you see it in the NFL, guys bring back their team, their former players and stuff like that. MLB, old timers day and stuff like that. But with the NBA, it just for some reason, and I don't know why. I honestly don't know, but it just feels different, man. Like there's an energy of greatness that you see, like when Michael was walking out, or whatever, whoever. It just feels so different. And to
Mm.
see them all together, it almost makes you a little emotional seeing it.
Yeah.
And then you start reflecting on like when you were, your younger days, seeing all these guys playing and stuff like that. It's crazy, man. But it was a
Yeah.
special, special moment to see everyone together like that.
Sure. It really is. And, I think part of it, Rob, is that, for me, and I think a lot of fans may feel this way. You feel that NBA players
Mm,
different than other athletes. One, because they're so close to the court, they don't have on helmets, so you see their faces all the time. You know, um, I think they're more personable. I think the league does a really good job of marketing their players, whether it's walking into the tunnel before the game or the post
yeah.
game or whatever. You know, um, so I think you get a sense that these players more so than football players or baseball players. I also think because there's so few players on the team,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's more of a close knit family. Football has 50 some odd players, baseball has 25, 26 on the normal roster. But basketball only has what 12 to 15 players, and the guys at the end of the bench you don't really care about. But those eight you may really
Yeah.
know, the eight who are in the rotation. And so I think you kind of feel like they're more family. You kind of like them more so than athletes in some of these other sports.
Yeah, that may be it. That may be it. And I think with basketball too, I think because it has that family feel, when you do reflect on, the past, like even just talking now, I can remember Jordan hitting the game winning shot, in the
Mm.
finals. Like I remember sitting in my
Mhm.
living room with my parents and my brother watching it happen. So stuff like that is like, wow. Like it's nostalgic almost to feel it and see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, so seeing all the greats, it feels different, and when you see it in basketball, it just feels so different. Now, you know, NBA, I think, and I saw Josh Donaldson come out and say MLB has the best All-Star game or the only game that matters, and I'm like, okay, Josh, okay. But the NBA All-Star Weekend I thought was pretty good. I did not see the celebrity All-Star game on Friday night. Um, I saw bits and pieces of highlights, but I did see enough to see that mountain of a man called Miles Garrett
Oh boy.
of the Cleveland Browns. Right. I mean, first of all, he's amazing. It's like 6'4" and I don't know, 270. And there's videos of him on Twitter and elsewhere dunking the basketball like crazy, right?
Yeah,
Um, and seeing him out there playing, I mean, I don't know if you've watched that show on I think it was on Amazon Prime or Prime Video, Reacher.
I
Have
haven't.
you?
No.
Okay, because Reacher is supposed to be a mountain of a man, and he's out there doing all this stuff. Listen, Miles Garrett is a mountain of a man. Woo.
I was
And you got
waiting
all
to
them
see.
celebrities running around him. I'm like, you better watch out.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if someone would try to take a charge or something from that man. Oh boy.
Man.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's something else. So I didn't watch much of that, but I do know this that my man Alex Toussaint, the Peloton
Yeah.
King, won the MVP. And it's funny because I got a Peloton and I always ride with Alex. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know, he's my guy. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself, man, this guy went out there and won, done
Yeah.
MVP.
He was balling out, man.
Hey,
He was doing his thing.
yeah. So he out there and he was, now he's doing a whole lot of great stuff. He just signed a big endorsement deal with Puma, right?
Well,
Yeah. And so he's at the top of his game right now.
yeah.
And to go out there now and win the NBA Celebrity All-Star Game MVP. Now look, it's not an MVP. I mean, it's not, a league MVP, but for an All-Star game with the celebrities, it's still right. Like you said, he was out there doing it, right? So yeah, man, the legacy and the legend continues to grow. Alex Toussaint, Peloton guy. Jeez,
Hey,
I can get
we'll
up.
be out there one day, you and I. We'll
That's
we'll we'll
right.
we'll be co MVPs. We'll do it
Yeah.
one day.
What, in pickleball? 'Cause that's about all I'm gonna be doing, bro. Speaking of pickleball, you know who should be playing pickleball?
Oh,
And then this is all serious. Know who should be playing pickleball?
who's that?
All four of those guys who are in the slam dunk contest, because that
Oh
should be their
boy.
punishment for putting us through the worst slam dunk contest I think that I've ever seen.
I have to agree with that, man. It was so bad. And not a knock on their athletic ability. Obviously, they're in the NBA for a reason, but oh boy, this slam dunk contest was unbearable to watch. And I almost feel bad for myself that I actually sat through the entire thing, and I was kind of hoping for somebody to wow me, and never happened. Even my wife was watching it. She was like, "This thing is still going on. Can we just turn it off? Because there's nothing exciting happening here. And she looks forward to seeing the All-Star festivities and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think anyone was happy with the slam dunk contest.
No, no, I know I wasn't. I was my wife, she said to me when I came upstairs, she said, "They're getting you mad, huh?" Because I talk to the TV when like bad plays and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, and I couldn't even explain to her how bad it was. I mean, all
Yeah.
these missed dunks and then taking forever to try to get into the dunk. And it was, man, I don't think they should do away with the slam dunk contest. I don't. Just because this was a bad one, but this was a bad one, and it's unfortunate. But little blip on the screen on what I believe was otherwise a pretty good weekend for the NBA. And as we said earlier, I think the second half is set up pretty nicely. With some new faces and new places, and these teams going to be competing for the playoffs. So the NBA did okay despite you know a down performance by the slam dunk participants. So, um, hey, staying with basketball for a second, but going on to the college scene. I, by now, I'm sure you saw it. Everyone has probably seen Juwan Howard getting into that little scuffle with, I think his name was Joe Krabenhoft or something like that, an assistant coach for Wisconsin. After the game, when they were shaking hands and everything, and he mushed him in the
Yeah.
face. Um, First of all, man, what are your thoughts on it overall? I mean, Juwan was upset. Wisconsin was beating them. His team. Juwan's the head coach at the University of Michigan, and they were losing. They lost. And the Wisconsin coach called a late timeout, and Juwan didn't like it. And some words were exchanged on the handshake line, and then next thing you know, a scuffle breaks out. Well, what were your thoughts on all that?
I think it's a lot deeper than just him hitting someone, honestly. And I was talking to a friend of mine the day after this happened, and we kind of shared the same sentiment. I think, in the big picture of it, Juwan Howard is the head coach of a basketball team in college, a prominent team. Um, and in situations like this, it could affect the players on the team, right? And these are college players; they're not professionals. And we all know the NCAA is all weird about showcasing the talent on their team and all this stuff. It goes a much bigger conversation there. So you put at risk your players when something like this happens because they're going to want to have their coaches back, right? So it could have been a much bigger thing, but also for me, I look at it and I don't know the whole situation. And you and I were talking about this off air. We don't know the whole situation, what was said or what could possibly have been said that set Juwan Howard off to the point where he got physical with someone. But if something was said to trigger him that bad, especially if he's already heated up, listen, man, at the end of the day, I'm human, you're human, we're all human beings. And I think that's sometimes forgotten in the realm of sports that these people, the coaches, the athletes, etc., that they are human first, and they're going to have reactions and emotions based on what's happening in front of them. And sometimes it's hard to control that emotion when you're already feeling hot. So, should he have gotten physical with someone? No. Do I necessarily? Am I condoning it? Absolutely not. Should he have gotten suspended, fined, all that stuff? Of course. But at the end of the day, I think as the coach on the other side on Wisconsin's team, you also have to read the room too. If he's already heated up, just grab your guys and walk out. Don't try to instigate the situation if that's what happened here that led to Juwan Howard doing what he did.
Yeah, I think you captured all of it, man. And look, Howard was suspended for 5 games, so he's going to miss the rest of the regular season. He'll be back for the conference tournament, and if they go on to the NCAAs or whatever, he'll be there for that. Assuming he doesn't punch anybody else out in the meantime. But but you're right. Again, not condoning anything, but sometimes one of the things struggle with is when we kind of look at these situations very clinically, and we take the human element out. Again, no one is saying it was okay for him to do what he did. All I'm saying is, but you may be able to understand, right? But having said that, he still has to pay the price, and he is paying the price. And, it's one of those things where he's going to have to make no mistake. He had a great year last year with this team. And, they still have a winning record this year, but they're not as good as they were last year. But this puts more pressure on him, in my opinion, to get back to those winning ways, right?
Yeah,
Because they're going to be watching him. And, his margin for error has gotten a lot smaller now. So, you know, f- regarding his tenure at the University of Michigan, he's on a shorter rope, so to speak, or leash, so to speak, than he was before. But hopefully he'll get past this. And, um, you know, after the game, he was not apologetic. He was pretty much saying, the coach put his hands on me and it escalated from there. And I'm thinking, bro, you need to own this. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And he since has now said, hey, I know I can't do that. Um, and so we are where we are. There has been some talk about banning the handshake line, and I'm with Tom Izzo, head coach of Michigan State, who said that's ridiculous. That's an overreaction, and I think that would be an overreaction. We shouldn't have to ban the handshake line because a skirmish broke out in this situation. So I hope they don't do anything like that. That would be a tremendous overreaction, in my opinion.
yeah, and it's a big mistake too. I agree. I don't think they should even this stuff. This kind of stuff does not happen often, and if it does, it normally doesn't escalate to this situation where it gets actually physical like this. So you can't take one situation and then overreact. So I think they should just let it be.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. On another front, Rob, and just the last basketball note, I thought it was interesting. A guy who I think we both, have come to respect for his voice, former player JJ Reddick. He had some interesting comments about Zion Williamson, and he was a teammate of Zion at one point, right? And he even said he spoke to Zion about some of the issues that he has with Zion. Reddick says Zion is a detached teammate, and he made some really critical comments of Zion in connection with the Pelicans picking up CJ McCollum from the Portland Trailblazers. And McCollum was saying over the weekend that he has yet to speak to Zion. There's reports out now that the two have now spoken, but um, Reddick picked up on these comments and said that's a complete lack of investment in your own team. Talking about Zion Williamson, he said Zion should have picked up the phone, should have texted McCollum, welcomed him to the team. He said that's just standard. And you can tell that Reddick was kind of fed up with what he believes is Zion's detachment. I thought those are some very interesting comments. And man, I agree with Reddick. Yeah, come on, man. You just get a guy who's brought to the team supposedly to play alongside you and Ingram and help you guys win some games if you ever get back on the court, Zion. And you can't even reach out to the guy and say, "Hey, man, glad you're here."
Yeah, it's not a good look at all, man. and yeah, I definitely like the way JJ Redick goes about his business. He's on First Take on ESPN now, and just hearing him is kind of a breath of fresh air almost, because he's very real, and
Yeah.
and this was no different. He was very straight up. He, like you said, he was a teammate of Zion's and spoke to him face to face. Listen, Zion is the face of that franchise, number one overall. The big hype coming out of college. Um, when you make a trade like this and you get a guy in CJ who's not a bad player, he's a really good NBA player, an established player. It just didn't work out for whatever reason in Portland with him and Dame, as far as taking the next step. But CJ is a really good player. You're teaming him with Ingram, who's another nice young player. You're trying to build a foundation. As the leader or the projected leader of the franchise in Zion, yeah, it's his duty to kind of reach out and say, hey, I can't wait to get together on the court. Whatever I need to do, whatever tips you have to help me get back on the court, because Zion has missed a lot of time in his young career. So, when you get a veteran like that, like CJ, who's a baller, yeah, man, you have to reach out to him. You have to get something going, get that chemistry working, even though you're not on the court. But I think what JJ said is correct. Zion has been detached, and I think we saw that from the moment the Pelicans drafted him. On draft day, you could see his face when they got the number 1 pick, and he knew it was going to be him. He didn't want to go there. Maybe he wanted to end up with the Knicks and, in New York and all that stuff. But you could see that he just wasn't buying in to going to New Orleans. And unfortunately, that's continued. And for me, I feel like it's a lack of professionalism on his part. And we could chalk it up to him being young. But then that's where the people around him as well have to say, listen, you're in this situation. Make the best of it. Stay in shape. Ball out. And then if you ball out, we could find a way to get you out of here later down the road when the time comes. But you have to prove yourself as an NBA player to get that right to speak, about where you want to go. Right now, Zion hasn't done that. He has nothing to stand on as far as an NBA player. So I think that does need to change with him very, very fast.
Man, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Zion is very close to becoming one of the biggest busts in NBA history. If he
Yeah.
doesn't get back out on the court, if he doesn't get himself healthy, return to action, and stay consistently on the court and produce, he's going to go down in history as one of the biggest busts in the NBA. And I like Zion. I remember him playing in the McDonald's All America game and all the rest of that stuff, and seeing him playing out there, man among boys, and going to Duke and doing his thing there, even when he busted out of his shoe and all the rest of
Yeah.
that stuff, Um, and he's come into the league, and he's he's had some trouble, it seems, with his conditioning, with his weight, and obviously with injuries. And you know, he's got some work to do. I'm not rooting against him, but if he doesn't turn it around quick, you know, we're going to be talking about what could have been with Zion Williamson, and it won't be good. His legacy will not be good. So hopefully, he's a young guy still. Hopefully, he can get over these injuries and get back to playing. But right now, whether it's on the court or off the court in a situation like this, he's not holding himself out too well right now. So hopefully that will change. Speaking about change, Rob, you mentioned this to me. The settlement U.S. women's soccer team reached with U.S. Soccer, $24 million settlement of their lawsuit, equal pay lawsuit. There's still some, I think, negotiating and finalization that has to happen, but it certainly appears, that dispute is over, and the women will have prevailed to the tune of $24 million in their equal pay suit. What do you think about that, man?
I think it's a step in the right direction. I think it's great for the women's soccer team. Obviously, there's a lot of notable athletes on that team that we all know, and they brought championships to the U.S. And it's great to see that, and it's great that they were able to get this victory for them. But on the other hand, also it's unfortunate that it had to get to this, where they had to go through the court system and all that stuff just for equal pay, when it should have never been that issue to begin with. Obviously, that's a much bigger conversation there, but for now, I think we have to celebrate this, and hope for more change across other sports and other industries, so that men and women do get equal pay for this. As far as the pay equity, that we get rid of that. We need to see women being paid the way they should be paid.
Yeah, look, and I think the women's soccer team, was sort of particularly situated where they could make a really good case, and they did. One, because they're very good. Second, because they generate just as much, if not more, revenue than the men. Which a lot of times the revenue disparity in the sports is the reason why that you see the pay disparity, right? WNBA players, right? They're not generating the same type of revenue as NBA players, right? And so it's all about the revenue. But I think here it was a fight that had a lot of merit, and it's a fight that has now ended in a settlement that's favorable for the women. And I think the United States women's soccer team has both on the field and off really been an inspiration, I believe,
Yeah,
for young girls and for women in so many ways, as athletes, as women, as as people who are willing to stand up, speak their minds, support causes, be influencers, and the rest of it. And I think adding this particular legal fight to their resume, so to speak, and coming out with a very favorable settlement just simply adds to what I think is the overall impact of some remarkable women on the soccer team. So congratulations to them.
yes, yes, indeed.
Yeah. Um, a couple of quick ones before we get on up out of here. Brian Flores has landed a job with the Pittsburgh Steelers as a defensive assistant and a linebackers coach under head coach Mike Tomlin. Not much of a surprise there, right? That Mike Tomlin would put him down on his staff, and that also he would end up in all places the Pittsburgh Steelers, given the connection to the Rooney Rule and all the rest of that.
Yeah, definitely not a surprise there. It's actually good to see that he got a job too.
Yeah,
Obviously, he has the lawsuit going on and all that stuff. But not surprised at all that Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers came out and hired him, because at the end of the day, he is a great coach, a great defensive mind, and I think he's going to do great with Pittsburgh. And hopefully, this leads to a head coaching job again in the NFL for him.
yeah, and who knows? I mean, Tomlin probably is going to be around for a while, but you never know.
Yeah,
And does he is he going to essentially not necessarily groom Flores for a job because he's already been a head coach, but down the line, could that be a transition? Who knows? Too early to tell, but certainly Flores is back, and that just helps him. You know what I mean? If in the event there's other head coaching opportunities down the line, I still think he's probably a few years away from being considered as a head coach. Quite frankly, I just do. I just think these owners are going to have a long memory. You
yeah,
know,
I definitely agree with that.
so but
I could see that happening with him.
yeah, but at least he's back in the game, and so that's a good thing. Um, what's not so good, Rob, is that the MLB lockout continues, and the reports that are coming out of this week's negotiations, at least up until right now, have not been very positive. Now that could change at any time, but it hasn't been very positive. Spring training games are already postponed. MLB has said if an agreement is not reached with the players union by February 28th, that regular season games will be postponed. And so we're a couple of days away from that particular deadline, one that, by the way, the union doesn't agree with. But bottom line is, you know, we're still in the midst of a lockout and we're a couple of days away from March.
Yeah, man, it's not a good look at all. At least the sides are meeting, which is different than we could have said, last month or even a few weeks ago, where there was a lot of time in between meetings. So at least they're meeting. It seems like going to be on a daily basis until the end of the week, maybe longer. So we'll see. Hopefully, something changes. There's a shift in the process and stuff like that, and we can finally start making they can start making agreements slowly on maybe some of the smaller stuff, or maybe who knows, maybe there's a great development on something big, and we we see some light at the end of the tunnel. But right now, it's not a good look. It's unfortunate because I need my baseball, Jeff, but I'm holding out hope,
Yeah.
man. I'm holding out hope.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the rites of spring, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Spring training, and then you get into the regular season, and then you go on into the summer and so forth. But like you said, I mean, look, it could be a situation where it's one proposal away from breaking a logjam that leads to fruitful discussions. You could hope that happens, and if it does, then we'll be that much closer to baseball again. And speaking of baseball, real quickly, man, one name I just want to throw out there because I know you're a Yankees fan, but you and I talked about this, that of all the free agents who remain out there, Freddie Freeman to me is intriguing because you're starting to hear rumblings coming out of Atlanta that they may not bring him back. And Freddie Freeman is a great first baseman, has helped Atlanta, been one of the best players in the game for a long time for the
yeah,
Braves. And, if he's available, I would think your hometown Yankees might be interested in him, and so would a number of other teams around the league.
yeah. He's only 32 years old. Great first baseman, great bat, great personality. It seems, on the field, in the clubhouse, fun guy to be around. You can see him joking around when he's mic'd up and all that stuff. If the Braves let him walk, I think it'll be a big mistake for the team, for the franchise, for the fan base. He's just one of those guys that you just don't want to see on a different team. As great as it would be to see him in pinstripes for the next, 5 to 7 years, whatever contract he gets, I kind of don't want him to leave. I kind of look at him as like not so much an accomplishment, but like a Derek Jeter type, where he stayed with that one franchise for his whole career. That's kind of what I see Freddie Freeman and the Braves. So hopefully, he follows the footsteps of, like a Chipper Jones and stays there for his whole career, and they figure something out. Braves, don't let him walk. As much as I would love to see him with the Yankees in the Bronx, leading us to a championship because we need one. Hey, you got to keep Freddie Freeman.
Yeah. Yeah, I look, I'm hoping that the Braves get it done. Look, I'm a Mets fan, and so, with the Braves and the Mets sharing the same division, if the Braves got weaker, I wouldn't be sad about it. But having said that, yeah, it's something about Freddie Freeman, yeah, he belongs on the Braves, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of hope that gets done. But having said that, Rob, we both know at the end of the day, this is a business, and business decisions are going to be made. And so we'll see what that means for Freddie Freeman. We'll see what that means for Carlos Correa. But we
Hmm.
have to wait until the lockout is over before we see much of anything um, as far as baseball is concerned. So, all right, brother, that'll wrap it up for us, man. Great getting back again, man, and talking about various things, man, and looking forward to, as we said, the NBA season. Looking forward, hopefully, to baseball coming back. Also, looking forward to March Madness, which is right
Yes.
around the corner as well. So, a lot of good stuff on the horizon. And most of all, man, look back to coming back and doing this again with you next week and just taking a tour around the world of sports, man. And until then, man, be good, man, and stay out of trouble and stay out of that snow. I know you guys are going to get some snow this week.
Yeah.
So
Not looking forward to that.
nah, stay out of that snow, bro. We don't need you getting injured, man. We need you back in the saddle next week so we can do this again. But always good talking to you, man. Look forward to doing it again next week.
Sounds like a plan, man. Take care.
All right, you too, brother.